wait. The fact is that if you're going to get a bipartisan compromise, you know there's going to have to be some revenue increase in addition to spending cuts. The Debt Commission, the Bowles-Simpson Commission, came up with a formula 3 to 1. $3 in spending cuts for every $1 and revenue increases. And they didn't even talk about raising rates. They talked about doing away with tax breaks. Why isn't that acceptable?
Well, Chris, I have to tell you, I've been one that said get rid of loopholes, get rid of subsidies. I talked about a corporate business tax rate that comes down to 20 to 22%, eliminate subsidies and loopholes. I talked about going to a flat tax, which just has only one deduction pretty much for children. But I think the most important thing that we have to understand, I think Donna will agree with me, until we show that we're willing to be fiscally responsible up here, why should we continue to tax Americans? Why should we continue to take away their most precious resource if we're not going to do the right things up here?
Congresswoman Edwards, answer the Congressman.
You know, Alan, the fiscal responsibility actually did happen when the last Democrat was in office before President Obama, and that was President Clinton.
And
we
had a Republican
balanced
Congress
budget, we
with
had
him.
surpluses, and
And
those
he had
were
a
wiped
Republican
away.
Congress working
Those
with
were
him.
wiped away by 2 wars that were unpaid for, by a prescription drug plan that was unpaid for,
you know, the enemy
and by
does
taxes,
have a vote,
and
Donna.
by
I haven't been in the military. The enemy has a vote. We have to fight, and we have to defend our country.
I thank you for your service. I mean, I grew up in the military. I feel very strongly about the military. But the fact is that you cannot have 2 wars that are on the books that are unpaid for, tax breaks that are unpaid for the wealthiest Americans, and at the same time say that we're going to balance our budget off the backs of seniors.
We've got a couple of minutes left, and I just want to get you both to on one last subject, which is the debt ceiling, because the clock is ticking. We're headed towards, we now hear August 2nd as a date when we're going to run out of money and default on our debt. What do you do about it, Congresswoman? Well, go ahead.
Well, first of all, I think we have to pay our bills. And we can argue about how we got to those bills, but the United States has an obligation both for ourselves and also for the rest of the world to make sure that we meet our obligations. We can have a conversation about what cuts need to be, but I think that the Republicans are being disingenuous when all you can do is talk about spending cuts on only a portion of the budget, and then not also talk about revenue increases at the same time that we have a conversation.
I'll give you 2 quotes from Mr. Druckenmiller in his Wall Street Journal piece. The grave danger he sees is that politicians might give the government authority to borrow beyond the current limit of $14.3 trillion without any controls or conditions to control spending. He's willing to accept a temporary delay in the interest payments he's owed on U.S. Treasury bonds if the result is a Washington deal to restrain runaway entitlement costs.
But you know what? If you get rid of
that was George Soros's funds manager.
If you get rid of our spending for 2 wars that have been unpaid for and tax breaks for the wealthiest Americans,
that's a different issue. You want us to pull out of Iraq and Afghanistan.
I do, because you would then draw our responsibilities down, our obligations,
and our interest down. By August 2nd, even President Obama's against that.
And so I think the responsible thing is that you raise the debt limit, and then we work on the plan that gets us out of Iraq, out of Afghanistan,
well, I can see Congressman West shaking his head. He's going to say no way, and you know the Republican majority in your House is going to say no.
Well, I don't know. You look at that vote the other day on our spending in Afghanistan, and there are a lot of Republicans who don't agree with that.
Measures first. We have got to present spending control measures first. And let me tell you something that just happened. On my BlackBerry, I get 12 alerts this week of soldiers that lost their lives in Afghanistan. It's not over in Afghanistan.
All right. We're going to have to leave it there. But to be continued, Congressman West, Congresswoman Edwards, thank you both so much for sharing part of your holiday weekend with us.
Memorial.
Please come back.
Thank you. Happy Memorial.